from the Ticats Audio Network, this is Ticats Today with Louie B.
Yes, it is Ticats Today for a Friday, May the 20th, 2022, wrapping up day 2 of training camp from Ron Joyce Stadium at McMaster University. Louie B on the Ticats Audio Network. Thanks for checking us out. Really do appreciate it. We got a great show coming up for you because my friend Steve Milton is going to be stopping by. Well, actually, I caught up with him at training camp earlier today, and I'm going to play that conversation for you in just a little bit. We're going to hear from Coach O. We'll hear from Brandon Revenberg. We'll hear from Bralon Addison as well. And that's all coming up here on the Ticats Audio Network, Ticats Today. So thank you. Really do appreciate it. Hopefully you're having a great week and a day that looked like it was going to be not great. Me driving on the 403 to McMaster this afternoon, holding two hands on the wheel with the rain coming down, making that corner as I approached Main Street. It did not look like it was going to be a nice day, but it turned out to be an absolutely beautiful day at Ron Joyce Stadium and a great day to catch the Ticats practicing, which you can do, yes, if you have not heard already. Ticats practices, Ticats training camp, I should say, is open. We're welcoming fans back to training camp practices, so if you're looking for something to do this weekend, and there's no shortage of things to do in Hamilton this weekend, but if you are looking for something to do, you can come join us at Ron Joyce Stadium at Tim Hortons Field. Practice tomorrow starting at 8:30 a.m. And reminder, there are no pictures or autographs allowed before or during practice. Afterwards, take as many pictures as your heart desires, ask for as many autographs as you want, but during and before practice, no photos, no videos, no autographs. But come on down to Ron Joyce Stadium tomorrow. It is an 8:30 a.m. practice start. I'm looking forward to that one. But come join us. Sunday, it's 11 a.m. Monday, back to an 8:30. And for all the latest updates on the practice schedule, you can just go to ticats.ca/practice schedule. But hopefully we'll see you at some point this weekend down there at Ron Joyce Stadium. As mentioned, the rain was starting to fall. When I got there, it cleared up, and it cleared up in time for Tyler Ternowski to make a splash with an absolutely fantastic catch. A fantastic catch in the end zone. So keep your eyes open on our social media. I'm sure one of our talented videographers got it, but made a couple of us stop what we were doing to kind of replay it in our mind. But Tyler Ternowski looked great out there today, as did everybody. Day 2, not too much to read into. And for more on that, let's hear from the head coach and president of football operations of the Ticats. That's Orlando Steinauer, who was asked whether he saw the progress that he wanted to from day 1 to day 2, or if it's just too early to tell. Here's what he had to say.
It's a little bit too early to, do a lot of assessing, but I do know we put more at them today, and we were better in some areas, and in some areas we kind of stayed the same, but that's expected, and we'll just continue to grind and get better every day. There's a lot. The spacing is different on the field, obviously, and we're just gonna, we're in the infant stages of just figuring out how we can best take advantage of it, and also how we anticipate it being taken advantage of when you're looking at it from a defensive perspective, and the same is being evaluated in special teams in the kicking game. Notebooks open, attentive, want to be coached. I feel like the coaches are doing an exceptional job, and but it's early, right? There's still a lot of excitement, and so I'll check back with them when they're at their peak soreness. We'll see how they feel. Well, you'll have to ask Dane. I really don't have a comment on how Dane feels. I know that from my first time as a head coach, there is definite competition there, but Dane is our guy, where it's his job to lose, if you will. And so this is different for me, but as far as how he feels and how he's approaching it, Dane would be the best one to ask, and Tommy would have a good viewpoint on that. For me, whoever's in the huddle, our goal is one thing, and that's to win the football game.
That is the president of football operations and head coach of your Ticats, Orlando Steinauer. There were some news and notes that I did want to get to that I did forget off the top. Just a couple of minor roster announcements as the Ticats continue to finalize the details of training camp. They announced today they signed 2 American players, including defensive tackle Blake Green and running back Dejun Lee. Green played 19 games over 2 seasons at the University of South Florida. Lee, meanwhile, played 4 seasons at the University of Delaware. He's 5'7", 185 pounds, and 506 carries. Not the biggest guy in the world, but put up some pretty great numbers at the University of Delaware. 506 carries, 2,372 yards, 14 touchdowns. Also added 41 receptions for 288 yards. So a couple of little roster announcements there from the Ticats. All right, let's get back to some post-practice sound. We had a chance to catch up with Brandon Revenberg after practice today. Here's what he had to say.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is just making sure your body's prepared for camp. You've been through it enough times, you know what to expect. But I mean, at the end of the day, you keep raising that bar, you keep raising that standard, right? So that's kind of where we're at, just trying to get ready and show up today. Yeah, I mean, every position group, I'm sure you want the guys to be tight-knit, but I think the offensive line is specifically the most important one, right? I mean, if we fail as a unit and we win as a unit. So while we do have new faces, it's just trying to get them in here, communicating with them as fast as we can, and I think we got a great bunch of guys this year. It's really exciting times.
That is Ticats offensive lineman Brandon Revenberg. And remember, you can get your full scrums available at ticats.ca, where you can hear the full comments of this man, Bralon Addison, who we caught up with after practice. Here's what he had to say.
It's been great. New guys coming in, getting acclimated. The vets coming back, getting acclimated. It's good to be back out there competing. Everybody came out here to play football and compete. So it was fun first 2 days. Looking forward to getting better every day. Yeah, trying to. I'm more of a lead by example guy. I've been that way in my past, but being one of the older guys in the room, especially being the longest tenured Ticat receiver in the room, trying to help out in any way I can. But the thing I love about our group is, we got a collective group where everybody's pitching in, everybody's making each other better. So it's not really just one guy leading. We got guys like Steven Dunbar, Tim White, who made plays for us last year, Lamar Durant's a veteran in this league, and even some of the rookie guys, they coming in and have a lot of knowledge of the game. So it's good to have a group like that. Everybody's intelligent, everybody's pitching in. Just assertiveness. Even with us having the strike in the lockout, man, he was getting us together, meeting during the day, going out to practice, get some reps in, get some walkthroughs in. I know it helped a lot of the veterans get that refresher coming back, and then especially the rookies getting those couple days to, not have that stress of the coaches over their backs worrying about, if I say this way and it's not the right terminology, you know what I mean? So just getting the rookies ahead, and, I think for the first 2 days, practice has been mentally, we've been kind of ahead, and hats off to Dane and doing his thing, man. When you got a guy like that who's a leader, who's been a coach's son, who knows how to get things going and be able to run things, it helps a lot.
That is Bralon Addison, and yes, just reminding you, full scrums available at ticats.ca, and you can check back there throughout the weekend, throughout the long weekend, as we'll be continuing to bring you updates from practice, from training camp at Ron Joyce Stadium. Speaking of Ron Joyce Stadium, I love that place. I love the building. I've been there a bunch of times. I've done a couple of camps now at Ron Joyce Stadium. I've done Cable 14 games, McMaster Marauders games, for Cable 14. I've played volleyball there. It's a beautiful stadium. Love going down to the campus, even with all the construction going around, which it seems like there's always construction going around Ron Joyce Stadium and McMaster. But it's not really training camp until Steve Milton shows up, and he couldn't make it yesterday, but he was there today, and it was great to see him. A sight for sore eyes for sure, and had a chance to catch up with Steve, and we started our conversation talking about McMaster and just how happy we were to be back.
Which is, it's really great. I have always liked the fact that they have the training camp here. When it was down in St. Catharines, it just seemed too distant. This way it ties together the two. That's 2 of the 4 what you would call cornerstones of Hamilton, McMaster and the Tiger Cats. The other thing that you didn't point out that's different is the field. It looks a little more cluttered because you got 2 sets of hash marks, and I thought that was kind of echoey when the strike happened. That they had it ready for the 22 season of the narrow hash marks. It makes a difference. You really see how narrow it is, the new rules, and we'll see what that does to affect who plays where.
Yeah, Coach noted it in his post-practice comments yesterday. He wanted to see the film. He wanted to see what it looked like from up above because, when you're on the field, where I spent most of the day, it's hard to tell. But like you said, up here, you really get a sense for just how close everything is.
I'm going to be writing about this next week once we get some feel of this. There's been a development over the last years in the CFL Louie, that the two outside linebackers are very different types of players because one has a wider field and one has a narrower field. Now it's the same size. Roughly.
Yeah.
I mean, roughly. There'll still be a wide side, but the difference is going to be 3-4 yards, not 10 yards like it was before. I wonder if that changes who plays where.
How many times have we said that Sam linebacker has to play like he's in the secondary?
That's
right.
right.
I mean,
Well,
that's such a huge part of the game. Yeah,
they are. When I count secondary now, I count it as 6.
Yeah.
Basically.
That brings me into the next question here, and I know you're going to be writing about it in the next few weeks, so don't give me too much. But there are some particular battles to be won here. Quarterback, running back, that's pretty standard.
Yeah.
The defensive line, the linebackers, that seems pretty set. But there are some positions.
You're right, and those positions you just mentioned, the battles there are for backup. Much of it, except a quarterback, and maybe even there, related to special teams. But there are 4, I think, and you and I have talked about this a lot all winter. Kicker, obviously. Kicking cost his team badly last year, even in the Grey Cup. There's 5 of them in town, maybe 6 eventually. And likely they're going to have 2. I doubt that they'll be one all-purpose there. So that's for 2 jobs. One likely is a global, one likely is a Canadian. I think that's how it might shake down. Well, it will shake down that way. Then the offensive line, there's 1 million people there. That line's probably set in 3 to 4 spots, but this camp will determine. Not the camp will determine, but I really think the exhibition games will determine the makeup of that line, including ratio on that line, because they got a little bit to play with there now. You can play with that. Wide receiver, more for maybe 1 or 2 spots on that, but a lot of depth spots, which again relates to some special teams work. Secondary, there are too many people who could have started in this league for the jobs that are available. And as we said at the top of the show, we count that as 6 jobs at the moment, because Sam, at the moment, until the season goes along, we see how the hash marks and other rules affect Sam linebacker. I think you'll see the same kind of thing. That'll be a defensive back type of some player, more like strong safety types of players in the U.S. But there are too many people who have already started in the CFL for the number of jobs available there. And the other one would be, we mentioned offensive line, kicking,
secondary,
and receivers. Those are the 4 spots where the most things. Now, you get an injury, and all of a sudden, I mean...
Well, they learned firsthand last year, especially on the offensive line, between a Van Zyl injury early in camp, Mike Filer's retirement, day 2 of camp, right? They learned pretty early on that it's better to have more
issues
bodies.
At left tackle, all of those things. I don't know if the 4 fewer days of training camp will affect that. I doubt it, because it's a veteran team. It'll affect it to some degree, but not that much.
Let's stick with the offensive line question, because I feel like that's a battle that they can afford to keep going all camp long, and that they might have to keep all camp long based on, Chris Van Zyl is on the veterans injured list. We haven't got an update on why, but that might be a position that they might have to sacrifice some early decisions just to get.
Yeah, you might say, okay, let's go 2 Americans there. I mean, it depends on Okafor at one tackle that way. They may go that way, and one of the things that does is give you a better chance to look at American tackles, which again, the games have come down, but there can be a blessing in disguise, I think, is what you were saying there, that you see which way that they can go there. I mean, this roster is built for flexibility. Most of them in the CFL are now. We happen to concentrate on this team, and this team because it's been very, very good for quite some time for the most part. So they have an awful lot of flexibility there. Even, I think, there's room within camp, but also in the early games to move people around. We'll see what happens at center, which could be affected by the guard or could affect guard. Yeah. So those are the kinds of things that's kind of inside football stuff, and not every fan is interested in it. But obviously you and I are, and of course the coaches.
Our listeners, too. We're talking about the receivers. You mentioned there's a lot of national receivers on right here now.
Yeah.
Not a lot of spots. Do you get a sense that, again, is that going to play out on special teams where there's
Special teams will be the big thing. I mean, you got to figure that, Durant is the guy there, but Unger, he can stretch that field. Durant plays a different kind of game, and he's got, we found out that these quarterbacks need some tall guys to throw to. They got to be able to see them because they're going to get pressure, and Dane has over the past shown. I think he's a spectacularly great quarterback, and boy, look at the leadership he's shown.
We'll get to that.
Yeah. I mean, look at the leadership he's shown this week, but he still has a bit of an issue until further notice with sacks, right? So he needs to be able to see somebody in a hurry that's taller. And I think that. A lot of the receivers are smaller and outside guys, so I think Durant really plays into a spot there. But Unger stretches that field, and he legitimized himself last year by catching balls. Yeah. It's not the same as just stretching the field and not catching balls.
Let's talk about Dane, because it's hard to believe that a guy who has started 2 consecutive Grey Cups has never gone into a training camp as quarterback number 1.
And is he ever a number 1 right now? Do you notice that?
Yeah. Just the way he handles himself. I know. I was down there talking to him, obviously made available yesterday. And you brought up an interesting point about this week.
Yeah, this week, it was him. Really, the elephant in the room is this team was on strike. And it was, is a strike, is it a lockout? Technically, it's a strike. So now they're down. Who's running things? Dane. He basically was saying, this is what we're going to do. He didn't say that as much, but you watched him do it.
He did. He did say yesterday.
Yeah,
he said yesterday.
Yeah,
the one line he said, well, it was nice for me not to have to run things, which was funny. Dad's a coach's dad. There's coaches. His dad's a coach.
And he's coached. Don't forget that he spent the pandemic year at, North Texas, right? And he was coaching there. He was on the staff as a graduate assistant coaching there. And it's in his blood. Yeah. But before, he wasn't going to do that. And the way he's embracing the other quarterbacks, we had our photographer there on the day they were at the stadium. And he made sure that all the other 3 quarterbacks came in and introduced all of those quarterbacks and those kinds of things. But it's clear that he's running this thing.
What does that add? Yes, last year Dane can talk
the ground with your feet running.
Yeah.
You're not looking to see yes, that was great to have 2 quarterbacks in, but when you got 1 quarterback in, you're running the offense from the first snap. Yeah. You're running it, right? Both guys were doing it last year because they knew they were going to do it all through the year, but this way, this is your starting guy. Right, and maybe there's a little drop off to the second guy who probably is going to be Schultz. Right, I think it looks that way. Could be Jalen.
I think it'll be an interesting camp for Jalen.
Yeah,
because he was on the roster last year because he was brought in the second half.
I like his size, but Schultz is going to be the running quarterback, right, at this moment, right, because he has run in this, and then you don't have to use Dane on the running downs.
On those short yardage.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Kicking. Let's talk about it real quick because there are some returning kickers, but they did bring in some new guys. You mentioned the possibility of a 6th guy that's maybe hanging around that they would have interest in.
Well, yeah, because he's in the States right now, and he hasn't decided to come back. But I think...
Who are you referring to? Do you want to tell me?
Pardon?
Do you want to tell me who you're referring to there?
Well, no,
okay, yeah, okay. I'll let you break your own
draft
story.
choice. Obviously, they're draft choice, right?
Yes, yeah.
So, and then Domagala.
Yeah.
Is that it'll be interesting because he's Canadian. And the thing is about Domagala, he did some good things last year, but he did some things but he fits the profile of kickers in this league, who struggle at first a little bit, that doesn't work, and they come back. You show me a kicker in this league who's Canadian, and I'll show you a player who was cut from the first team that he was on. Yeah. All right, and he wasn't necessarily cut, but he had struggles here, right? Well, he was because he came in the league elsewhere, and so I think it's a big thing for him because but he's got some competition there, and then of course you've got the 3 global players as well, and that's for the most part punting. One is a placement kicker, but Domagala, I'll be watching him, and he's confident. Yeah, he's got the head for it, even though he had some really tough moments last year.
Do you get the sense that he knows that this, because last year was kind of the way it was? He's back. they didn't like sign him to an extension. I mean, he's back because he's under contract.
Right.
Like, he's got to know that the pressure's on. He saw how many kickers they've drafted. He's got to know, right?
One thing I like about him, and I hate to use this phrase twice in the same discussion, but he'll address the elephant in the room, and the elephant in the room was, I'm under pressure.
Yeah.
And he will talk about it. He did last year. He talked about it when he missed that, when he hit the post in Toronto last year, and then the very next day he talked about, I got to be better, and the pressure's on, and the next time, and all of those kinds of things. And you'd be crazy not to. That's the way O coaches, by the way. He wants to say, okay, here's the elephant. Let's talk about the elephant. Get the tusks out of the way. Now let's go ahead. Yeah. Right? How do we ride this thing? And I think that suits the atmosphere of the things around here. Nobody pretends things aren't happening.
Before we go, Milty, because I know you're a very busy man, camp is underway here at Ron Joyce Stadium. I want to talk about Simone.
Yeah.
Because I sat down with Simone last week, and it started out as a pretty relaxed, but we got pretty deep. And that's the thing with Sim, and as somebody who's covered him as long as you have, I don't want to say this is a big year for him, because every year's a big year for him, but his growth, it really does get to me, just how good of a player he is and how he continues to grow.
Yeah, yes. That's all I can really say to that is that he plays a rough game. He plays on the edge. He goes over the edge sometimes too often. Not too often, but times. He's a joyful player. He brings spirit to the team. None of that is diminished. Some of it has even got better. He understands now that he's a leader. He is creates an updraft for players into the community. He acts as if he lives here all the time, and he lives here much longer than most people who don't live here all the time, right? He's a month on either end of the season extra. For sure. Takes this town seriously. And how long do you play that position that he plays the way that he plays? He had an outstanding year last year, a better year than most people recognize. I mean, do you have 2 touchdowns for, on returns, those kinds of things? Some very interesting numbers.
I think he was tied for the team lead in touchdowns at one point last season, which says something.
I don't vote for the Hall of Fame in this league, but he's bordering on it. It's very tough to make it a linebacker because there's been so many great linebackers in this league that have played so many years, particularly in the West.
An American linebacker, I would say.
Yeah, an American linebacker, that's right. And so, he has another year like he has had, and he's right there. I mean, he's already a Wall of Famer. Hamilton Wall of Famer eventually. Him and Speedy of the group that we just saw, which I call the Tim Hortons generation. Yeah. And Simone is the undisputed leader of that. He's another coach, in a way. I'm not surprised with the interview that you had that it tended to escalate. Because Sim doesn't always know what he's going to say and how he's going to feel, right? And he gets going on a subject, and it's so refreshing. It's so great to be around it. Like, normally you can get pretty tired of people after he's been here since 2013. You could get tired of people, and they wear you down. He doesn't, in a way. I mean, his enthusiasm, you go, hey, Sim, calm down just a bit. But it's just... You just light up when you see him. Fans light up when you see him. He walks into the players light up. Coaches do too. I think he takes his coaches by surprise. He
takes his coaches by surprise, but he takes his coaches seriously. And the one thing that stood out to me,
he likes being coached.
He loves being coached, and O is the perfect guy for him because he mentioned it. To misquote him here, he's a Hall of Famer. He's the president of football operations. Yeah. I think it's underappreciated sometimes. And again, I'm embarrassing Coach if he ever listens to this, but just what kind of an impact he has on these players.
This is his team. Yeah. I mean, it's Scott Mitchell's team, but this is O's team. I mean, there is absolutely no dispute about it. This is more O's team than it was Kent's team and it was Kent's team for basically the first 3 years. Anyways, this is totally things are. He would never say this, because he doesn't see it as his own image. But this team's created in his image over time. It was already heading that way, which is why he ended up here in the first place. But he was a big part of shaping that because he was here, from the start of Kent's days, right? So from 2013. So it's just basically him and basically him and Sim left over from the Guelph year. And I know O missed 1 year there, but all he was doing was figuring out how to be better at certain things down there and just getting a different look. I mean, one thing about O that I really, really love, he does this with his family, really big on education. Really big on education, including self-education. And he's done that for himself.
And I mean, and it's funny hearing it from other players. Yesterday, hearing it from Dylan, he's like, you know what I love about this personnel people? They brought in good players, but they brought in good people.
Yeah.
And when he says it, you hear Coach O, you hear O, good people, and that's at the heart of this team.
Yeah, and the other thing about O that you'd fail to recognize, and we wondered about this at the start, and I shouldn't have. Now looking back, how you have the knowledge to look back, I wasn't sure he was going to be tough enough. Not tough enough, because he's tough. Believe me, he's tough. But to those hard decisions that you have to make to separate personal feeling from what the job needs, he's got good at it.
There's a ruthlessness to
exactly. I was going to say you have to be an executioner at sometimes. I mean, right? Look at what are we looking at? 85 players here right now.
Dancing,
yeah.
Singing,
So 25 of them are going to be they're dancing and singing, but 25 of them are dancing on the way to not being here at some point. We don't know which 25.
Right. All right. Well, Milty, the stretching has ended. I will let you watch intently in terms of what's going on here at practice, but always great to catch up with you, buddy.
Okay, I'll try to be smarter next time.
My thanks to Steve Milton for taking a couple minutes at training camp to talk to me today, and my thanks to you, the listener, because we could not do this show without your support, so thank you. And on that note, just a little tiny bit of personal news from myself. If you follow me on Twitter, you might have already heard, and if you saw the Ticats Audio Network release go out and saw my name and was wondering why I wasn't part of the game broadcast, a little bit of news. Last week, I accepted a job to be the new weekend sports anchor at CHCH, and very excited about this new opportunity, very excited to be adding another tool to my tool belt, to borrow a phrase I've heard many times from these Ticats players. Although it does require me to give up the game day broadcasts, which I love doing. I loved working with Andy. I love working with RJ and Luke and the whole crew on game days. And there is nothing quite like game day. But this is a new opportunity. I'm very excited. I'm excited to be on your televisions. There's a whole lot of feelings. I've always wanted to be on TV. It's a childhood dream come true. But the better part of all this is that the very great people at the Ticats have decided that they want me to stick around too, and I want to stick around. So I'm not going anywhere. You'll be able to continue to hear me on the Ticats Audio Network. You'll be able to see me on dedicated pieces on ticats.ca on our social media channels. But I did want to share that news with you, the listener. Thank you. Because if the show was a flop, if nobody listened to this, I'm not sure I would be here long enough to continue doing it. So thank you. And I hope you continue to support this show, this network, this team. And I'm super excited that my next career move is not taking me far. Just up Highway 6 there at Innovation Drive. I'm really looking forward to getting started. In a few weeks, you'll be able to see me on TV. And again, thank you. Thank you to my bosses with the Ticats. Thank you to my bosses at CHCH who are going to continue to let me be a part of this Ticats Audio Network, to be a part of this team. And just wanted to get that personal note out of the way. Did want to give a couple of shout-outs. I mentioned it's a very busy weekend in Hamilton. Go Bulldogs. They got a big game 1 tonight. They got a big game 2 on Sunday, happening at the First Ontario Centre, OHL Eastern Conference Finals. Best of luck to the Toronto Rock at First Ontario Centre on Saturday. They got the Buffalo Bandits in town. Game 3, clincher, huge game. Best of luck to the Hamilton Cardinals. Their home opener is Sunday. And good luck to Forge FC, who's in Halifax tonight. So, no shortage of things to do in Hamilton this weekend. Have a fantastic Victoria Day long weekend. Make sure to subscribe to the Ticats Audio Network so you never miss anything. And check us out on social all weekend long for the latest from Ticats training camp. I hope you have a great weekend. For the Ticats Audio Network, I'm Louie B, hoping you have a great day.